Who is Drake's top up? Many of you have believed it has been Kendrick Lamar for the past 2 years, but the truth is, it is not. In this video, I'm going to explain who Drake is really beefing with, what the potential consequences are, and how he can come out triumphant. This weekend, all the full images from Drake's zine leaked, but there is one image in particular that I want to focus on. Before I get into the key details and share the information, I go by the name J Roebuck. On this channel, we don't just talk about music, we talk about the business of music. Please hit the like button, subscribe, and share the video with a friend. If you're watching on mobile, hit the like button as well. I won't hold you any longer, so let's get right into the facts. If you haven't seen this website yet, go to icemancountdown.com. Slide over to the section that says Iceman Zine, crack the code. Click that, then type in the code May 15. That will take you to all the images from the zine. As I said, there is one specific image that unlocks the entire point of this video. You should recognize it because it comes from the Grammys when Not Like Us was announced. In the image, you can see Lucian Grainge, the CEO of Universal Music Group, which Drake is signed to, high-fiving Dr. Dre. Drake made an edit to the image and added a sign that says, "Remember, you are dust." So, if you haven't figured it out already, Drake's top op is Lucian Grainge, not Kendrick Lamar. It is Lucian Grainge, and it has been Lucian all along. Drake has been taking shots at Lucian not only in the music, but also by posting his daughter-in-law, Sophia Richie Grainge, who is married to Lucian's son. At this point, it seems very clear that much of Iceman will be about Lucian. There will probably be some bars about Kendrick, we know that, but the main target appears to be Lucian. I've said this all along. Let's take a look at a clip I posted over a year ago. Drake's endgame is to have Lucian removed as CEO of Universal. Why would that happen? Universal is a publicly traded company, which means executives like Lucian answered to a board. So, if it is uncovered that Lucian, as the head of UMG, engaged in nefarious activity to defame the company's biggest artist, that could be a reason for him to be removed as CEO. If you haven't heard the news, there was an offer put forward to buy UMG, and that offer came from Bill Ackman. I read the full proposal, and there is no mention of Lucian being removed if the sale goes through. I believe they are happy with the work Lucian is doing. They may simply be unhappy with the company's strategy and want to improve it to raise the share price for shareholders. But there is never a guarantee. When new ownership comes in or new people are added to the board, executives or even the CEO can be removed. That is always a possibility. Now that we've established that Lucian is Drake's true op, what does that mean for Iceman? What does it mean for Drake's future with UMG? What does it mean for this rollout and how things may unfold over the next few weeks? To answer that, we have to look to the past, because sometimes the past helps determine the future. If you remember, during the beef, Drake was around 50 Cent a lot. They were talking, communicating, and linking up. Even in the Family Matters video, the opening image shows Drake with the G-Unit chain. Now, 50 Cent is no stranger to conflict. He doesn't mind beefing with labels, rappers, or anyone else. But this was not a coincidence, because 50 has been through a very similar situation. Once, he had beef with the head of Interscope, Jimmy Iovine. Interscope should sound familiar, because it's the same label Kendrick Lamar is partnered with. I'm going to play a few clips here, and you have to connect the dots. If critical thinking is difficult for you, this may not be the video for you. But if you can connect the dots and see things through, you are in the right place. What 50 Cent just explained is very clear. They were beefing with the label and specifically with Jimmy because they felt he was funding the G-Unit campaign. Game and 50 were signed to the same label, and 50 felt the head of that label was working against him, even though he had made them millions and millions of dollars. Does that sound familiar? Drake is signed to Republic. Kendrick is signed to Interscope. Both fall under the UMG umbrella. Drake felt the label was working against him, even though he is the cash cow, in order to support another artist. That is not the only parallel. There is more. In another clip, 50 Cent discussed how he and Interscope worked through some of their issues and how he eventually got off the label. Listen closely. He was on his final studio album requirement with the label, and that is when they reached a point where audits could begin. Again, that might sound familiar because Drake is reportedly on his last album under his contract with Republic and UMG. As 50 explained, they went through the books and found conflicts in different areas. He said Get Rich or Die Tryin' was the largest debut hip-hop album, and at that time, ringtones were sold in a similar way to singles. The language in the contracts reflected that. If he argued that he should be paid for singles the same way he was paid for ringtones, the label may have owed him around $23 million. That process took years, but eventually he was paid and things were settled comfortably. So let's stop there because there are some important things to discuss. 50 went through an audit because he had sold a massive number of records and wanted to make sure he was compensated fairly. He discovered that the label owed him around $23 million. That was also the last album he released under them. I believe they settled it, he got paid handsomely, and he deserved every dollar. That eventually became his way out of the label. Now stay with me. 50 believed the label was working against him. He felt they were not pushing his product or investing in him, even though he had made them all that money. Eventually, he found out they owed him money. So now we can talk about another possible reason Drake may have sued. He did not sue Kendrick Lamar directly. He sued the label. What if the reason he sued was to find out two things? First, if he sued, would the label eventually let him out of his contract and allow him to walk away? And second, if he gained access to the books and could see everyone else's contracts and how the industry truly works through the paperwork, he could potentially audit them and maybe uncover something much bigger. This could be Drake's way out, just like it was for 50. Let's watch two clips. One is from Ray Daniels, and he's with Gangu Roach, one of the financial auditors who works against labels to find money for the people he represents. They're going to say some important things, so let's watch. Remember, Drake used to drop an album every 2 years. Then he started dropping an album every 9 months, and that is how he burned himself out. He dropped the record with 21 Savage, he dropped If You're Reading This, It's Too Late, and he dropped multiple projects. Then he announced he was burned out, but that happened because they gave him $500 million. They said, "We'll give you $500 million, but we need more records." Drake said, "Cool," not realizing that they were giving him a loan against money they were going to make from him anyway. Now, that is partially true. An advance is money you have to recoup, but we also know that industry executives and insiders have already confirmed that Drake recouped the $400 million from that deal within a year or two because he released enough projects and went on tour, so he made that money back. Let's keep listening. In many ways, with him suing, I'm thinking he may be suing for the wrong reasons. Ray made a mistake here, and I don't know how he does not see it. Again, this is not about my personal feelings on the lawsuit. I am simply explaining what the possibility could be. Ray says Drake is suing for the wrong reasons, but what if the entire reason he is suing is to get out of the deal and potentially audit the label? A lot of artists do not know how much their catalog is truly worth because they keep taking advances against more catalog. Gangu Roach mentioned that he had a client who was making around $200,000 to $250,000 a year, with about $150,000 on average annually. But after the audit, it showed she was actually making around $900,000 a year. That means she was missing a major portion of her true earnings. So if that is what her clients are worth, what do you think Drake's catalog is truly worth? There was also a rumor about 50. His relationship with Dre and Jimmy Iovine went sideways, and he wanted to get off Interscope. They did not want to let him leave, so he audited them. From what was said, they owed him around $18 million. He allegedly said, "Just let me off the label." That became his way out. That is exactly the connection I'm making here. According to the discussion, 50's relationship with the label went downhill after his third album. After 3 albums, they owed him around $18 million, and eventually they let him go. So we have to keep in mind what was said about 50 and the label, and we also have to keep in mind what was said about auditing labels and what those audits can reveal. You have to connect the dots here.
Drake needs to be very careful because these issues could affect Iceman. This is a very important album, not only in terms of music quality, but also in terms of numbers. Numbers matter. Numbers shape public perception. They indicate how people feel about the music. Do people want to listen to it? Will they keep listening? Will radio play it? Will individuals play it? All of those things matter, and we know labels can play very dangerous games. Corporate retaliation is real. It may look different in different situations, but it exists. Now let's look at 50 Cent's first 3 albums and remember when his issues with the label began. Ray Daniels mentioned the third album, so let's look at the numbers. Get Rich or Die Trying